health and safety protocols have been published, and a man who's been all over this, the pandemic story, and certainly of the NBA. He is joining us from The Athletic, as well as the Stadium NBA insider, Shams Charania, here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Shams?
Rich, I appreciate you having me on. Hope you and your family are safe.
We are, thank you. Are you going to Orlando? Are you preparing to head down and be part of that Tier 1 bubble?
Man, I really don't know, to be honest. Like, I throughout this whole pandemic, I don't know about you, Rich, but I've tried to just live day to day because you just don't know what happens next week or the week after that. I feel like every week is a different week. There's something new that comes up every week. Like, you know, at the beginning of the pandemic, like the coronavirus situation was in and of itself the most major moment of my lifetime. And so after that, you have the murder of George Floyd and the racial tension that's come out after that. Like, it's been one after the other. So, you know, we'll see. I don't know yet.
No, I know. And obviously, you know, I shouldn't ask that because, again, it might not be up to you. It might be up to, obviously, your employer, whether to send you or not. And times are, as you point out, unique to say the least, as the NBA has just put out this health and safety protocol list. What leapt out at you first up?
Yeah, it's a great question. There was a lot, you know. Some of the things were basically, to me, it's how far the NBA is going to make this a truly closed off, safe environment. Like, if you leave, you have severe penalties. You know, players, from what I'm told, do not want to go through the invasive nasal swab. Well, if you leave and you're caught, not only do you have to go through the 10 to 14-day quarantine, not only do you have to register 2 consecutive negative tests, but you also have to go through the invasive nasal swab testing, the enhanced testing, as they called it. You know, they have rings, potentially up to 2 rings that can, one, tell you if you're within 6 feet of another person, another ring that can tell you if you know, early detection of coronavirus. And there's a wristband that everyone on the campus is supposed to wear, and that will allow you to basically enter different security checkpoints, access your room, access coronavirus testing. But, you know, how much will the monitoring go? Will it be used as a tracking device, which the NBPA and the NBA has completely shut down? Like, there's just so many different protocols, Rich, that it's a lot. And then there's, you know, 35 members of a traveling party per team. There are 4 required positions. You have to have an athletic trainer, a couple other key positions. And then if a player chooses to have his own masseuse, his own security guard, his own trainer with the team, like, they can make an exception for a player. So, you know, obviously LeBron James has had his own people at different points. Chris Paul's had his own people at different points. Like, all these star players have had their own people around them. So will one of those guys make the cut for the traveling party? That will be interesting to monitor. So it's a lot, Rich. It's definitely a lot that the NBA put into this. This was a process that took months. This was well rumored throughout the NBA, and we were just kind of waiting for this to drop, and they put it out Tuesday night.
So now what's the next step here? Does the Players Association have to negotiate some of these out or some of these in with the board of management, I guess, with the NBA, and then we're all good, and then this is really happening? I mean, despite Kyrie Irving Zooms and things of that nature, I mean, this is really happening? Next steps, if you don't mind.
This protocol, health and safety protocol, this 113-page packet has been fully approved by the NBA and the NBPA. So
okay, so
NBA
that's done.
And the PA, barring any unforeseen setbacks, they are moving forward to a season. That is the plan for everyone involved. But again, the June 24th date that players have to notify their team by on whether they will play or not, because every player is given a choice. Obviously, if you don't play and you're not excused, you're not going to get paid, but there won't be any other penalty. You won't be suspended for conduct detrimental to the team. So that decision will rest on every individual player. So the show's going on. The boat is going to continue to sail. You know, we'll see if I do think there will be some players. I don't know how many that is. It could be a couple. It could be 5. It could be a dozen that could decide not to play just based on what's going on in the country, coronavirus pandemic, family issues, a lot of different things that go into it. But the boat is going. If players want to get off the boat, they're free to. But As far as everything I've been told, this is the packet that has been fully agreed upon.
Senior NBA insider for the Athletic, Stadium NBA insider Shams Charania here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, then. So, what happens when there's a game? There's no masks required around the bench area, and I guess we're just figuring that everything's going to be handled best they can at the hotel. And hotel transportation to game level, that if that's all locked up, that when it's time to play a game, we're just going to lose ourselves in the competition, and health and safety, let the chips fall where they may. Is that basically the way it is?
Yeah, going back to your point about masks, the players on the first row of the bench are not going to be required to wear masks, but coaches will be heavily recommended to wear masks. So you might see some of your favorite coaches, again, it'll be optional, but some of your favorite coaches might be wearing masks during this. And the second row of the bench, everyone must wear a mask unless a player is active and just so happens to be sitting in that second row because there isn't enough space on the first row. So, there will be heavy protocols. Basically, everyone else will be wearing masks unless you're playing in the game or unless you're a referee. There will be a lot of disinfecting going on from not only Disney staffers, but the NBA is going to have their own people around the situation, and this to me is going to be the ultimate. You call it a bubble. The NBA wants to call it a campus. It is very severe. It's very drastic. We'll see how much of it will be lenient on. The NBA will. Like if someone really leaves the bubble, if LeBron James or James Harden leaves the bubble, I've had players ask me, like, what happens? Like, how can the league quarantine them for 10 or 14 days. So these are the types of things that are TBD. Like, we'll see how the league plays out these circumstances. What if players start, calling the anonymous tip hotline and start, saying that, hey, this guy violated this rule or this, like, you don't know where this could go until we actually go through with this. This is so unprecedented.
Now, Shams, are you insinuating that somebody's going to be calling the tip hotline before Western Conference Finals Game 7 to say, I saw LeBron out of the bubble last night? Is that what you're saying, that somebody might actually do such a thing? Is this what you're saying?
I mean, Rich, the option is available for them at their disposal. So, these guys are competitors.
Yeah, I saw that. I tweeted out, when are they going to set up the James Dolan hotline? When can I call to report him? Yeah, where's that hotline? I don't know if you saw my retweet of your tweet, Shams. But I'm like,
I didn't see that.
Yes, I'd like to report the worst owner in the history of sports. By the way, it's not anonymous with me. I put my name to it. So I guess, again, this is all part and parcel of what's workable and what's not. But there is, again, an agreement on the part of players and owners, commissioner and television partners, and that this is going to happen. Is there anything that you're hearing? Obviously, the virus is something that would, no question, change this whole dynamic. What are you hearing about? Because, again, you've been covering the pandemic expertly as well for Stadium and the Athletic. What are you hearing about any new technology? You mentioned a bracelet that can tell about the onset potentially of COVID-19. I read about the Sacramento Kings owner talking about sort of a breathalyzer that you breathe into a tube, and within seconds it can be a test that is reliable to see if you have COVID-19 or not. What are you hearing about on this front?
Yeah, the NBA is going to be doing a lot, and in terms of investigating different things. Like, one thing that they're working to do is trying to have a software to where at every checkpoint, a player that wants to enter, whether it's the arena, whether it's the hotel, whether it's the facility where they work out, like all these different places that they're going to have at their disposal, whether it's the 24/7 lounge, where they're able to swipe their magic band, and if it's green, they're able to be let through. If it's yellow or red or any other color, then they'll be investigated for further health concerns. Now, that is in the works, and that is, that sounds so, futuristic to me. Like, you can just, all you have to do is swipe this magic band, and it'll tell you if you're at risk for coronavirus. Like, that's pretty insane. But, that they're going to have special thermometers in each campus member's rooms that it's called a smart thermometer that, you can apply daily, and all the feedback will go back to the league health portal, which will basically be a tracking device from the moment the NBA starts its resumption in late June, coming up in the next week or so, to the end of whenever the finals end. So basically, it's like a constant monitoring portal for them. So they're trying to come up with a lot of ways to make sure that not only is everything going to be tracked, but we can stay ahead of the game as much as possible, more than the average, I guess, human.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So is it possible, again, and this is the interesting aspect to me, and I think for a lot of fans too, Shams, is that will the NBA be testing out testing in a way that could be writ large, that we could all use to maybe go back to work and open up societies? I'm serious
That's a great point. That's a great point. So they're not going to utilize this breathalyzer or this saliva test during this Orlando bubble, but the NBA is involved in a Yale health study that is going to allow their players to participate, and staffers and whoever wants to participate, in terms of trying to basically confirm Yale's testing and validate the testing and confirm that their saliva testing does work. And so the NBA will be funding that. We'll be working hand in hand with Yale on that.
Amazing.
And listen, if it's a success, that's clearly going to be a test. I don't know how readily available it will be in the marketplace, but a confirmation of that test, where it's basically a saliva test away, could go a long way, whether it's a swab or whatever the case may be. So there's no question. They're trying to figure out ways. You get this band. You have a couple rings that'll tell you if you have early detection. They are trying to figure out ways that they can use just for their season to go on. Now we'll see if these are things that'll tack on for the everyday American.
So are you saying that, again, this is not something that the NBA is going to use officially to rule somebody in or out, but it is something that will be using the players potentially as part of a study to see if this material works for society as a whole? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. They will be participating in that study. They've participated in a couple studies: a Yale study, a Mayo Clinic study for antibodies that players have participated in. I'm told several teams have participated in that one. So there's no doubt they're trying. The testing that will occur in the bubble will be a less invasive nasal swab or an oral swab. Depending on which one it is, they might even do both and see what the results of both are, and hopefully both are confirming the same type of result, and they can just be 100% accurate. But again, the invasive nasal swab, unless you leave the bubble and you're caught, that'll be out of the picture, as will this saliva testing that they will be testing out.
Can this magic band figure out if James Harden's taking a third step? Can we figure that out? Is that possible?
I don't think that's part of the protocol.
Okay, that's not part of it. Okay, that's not part of the plan. But in all seriousness, I guess to wrap this up, what if a third of a team tests positive right before a decisive Game 7, right before a pivotal Game 5? I mean, there's no real plan for that, correct? It's just trying to avoid that everything is just in place to avoid all that, and then we'll see what happens should something like that happen, correct?
I think you're right that it is to avoid that. They will allow replacement players for coronavirus in the bubble. So if you're in Game 6 of the NBA Finals and your guy, you have 3 guys maybe test positive for coronavirus, and they're going to be out for 10 days, and the finals are over in 4 days, then listen, I think it's time to replace said players and bring in guys that can play. And what Adam Silver did speak to players about a month ago was if players do start testing positive with some level of frequency, the NBA doesn't want to halt play, but perhaps they can do a 1 or 2 day stoppage and then come back. But they're not coming back just to stop again like they did on March 11th. This is, once this boat gets rolling, Rich, there's no plan for them to get off.
Shams Chang, thanks so much for the time and the information. It's impeccable. I appreciate that. I feel smarter for chatting with you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rich. I appreciate you guys.
You got it. You got it. That's Shams Charania of Stadium as well as The Athletic. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.